and welcome to the 108th episode of Growing Up Geek, the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia.
Hola y bienvenidos al episodio de la 108 ordinal femenino de Crecer Geek.
My name is Brad, and this week I am joined by my lovely wife, Amber.
You're not even going to describe that?
Yeah, I'm showing off my new favorite Android app called Talk to Me, and I just basically translated our episode intro into Spanish. This thing actually says that the word geek is still geek in Spanish.
I believe that.
And you're my resident Spanish expert, so you would know.
Resident meaning, yes, I live in the house. Spanish expert, no.
But you have said that this thing is pretty accurate so far.
As far as I can tell, yes. I haven't had Spanish in like 10 years, so yeah, sure.
We should back up and explain that the reason that Rob is not here is that we are talking about Lost this week. We just watched the 6th season premiere and the wrap-up episode, and we've been reading Wikipedia and watching old episodes in preparation for this, and Rob has not caught up on any of the past 2 seasons. He will not even be listening to this episode.
So we can say whatever we want about him.
Yeah, now's the time to do that. But so it's all Lost this week, and I will say up front that if you are interested in watching this show, we are going to be spoiling everything. So you don't probably want to listen to this until you've seen the 6th season premiere.
Yes.
So let's back up a little bit, though. Lost is a show that you and I, at the beginning, agreed a lot on. We loved it, I would say.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we TiVo'd it and watched it at your apartment. I would say we were fairly obsessed, and seasons 1 and 2, to me, for my money, are just some of the best television.
Yeah, but you have to really explain it. We weren't obsessed with it when seasons 1 and 2 were actually on TV.
That's true.
I heard people talk about it at work, and I was like, what is this stupid crap about a hatch? Like, I already knew that was going to happen in the show before I even watched the first episode. Right. So you have to understand, we didn't even watch the first season, maybe even the second season, until they were on DVD. And then we started recording and watching it on TV.
Yeah, we got to a point where we had finally finished everything on DVD, and they had already started the second season on television. So I remember we went to iTunes and bought the first episode of the second season on iTunes and watched it on my laptop. And that episode, the one that begins with Desmond in the hatch and everything, I mean, you've seen only this jungle and this island and this mystery, and then suddenly here's this guy riding an exercise bike and all this stuff, and I thought, well, for sure this is a flashback, and it ends up being, no, that's what's in the hatch. Blew my mind, loved that. Loved that episode. For me, the thing that's always been awesome about the show has been sort of who is behind everything, and that was the beginning of the Dharma, all the Dharma stuff.
And then it ended.
And then it ended, and the sad fact is that Desmond ends up being, if you carry on to season 3 and 4 and all the explanations, Desmond ends up being like the only guy really doing anything for Dharma anymore.
Yeah. Even though I still have a major question, which might not even bother anyone else, but the one episode a long time ago where they showed that there was still a plane dropping food for the Dharma people. And they found all that food, and it was like a big episode because everybody was like, oh, we have food now. We have food. But why is that plane still running? How can they find the island? Because everybody in Dharma is dead as far as we know, except for when Desmond was in the hatch because he was supposed to stay there and nobody else knew about him. I'm not really sure. All I know is, what the heck? They never answered that stupid plane thing, and I don't think they ever will.
And it's truly a stab in the heart to me because I saw Lost as a show about Dharma and about this guy, Alvar Hanzo, who you saw looking through a window in the video. Alvar Hanzo, the beneficiary, whatever you want to say, of the Dharma group, causing these experiments, doing all these things on the island. Surely that's the reason for the show. That's the reason for the mystery.
Yeah, they set that up all in the first 2 seasons, that Dharma is like the major thing that you really care about. They started doing the commercials.
They had the website with all the secret information on it for Dharma.
Yeah, the secret website. And then you find out, oh, wait, they're all dead. It doesn't matter. But I still want to know, my question is, if Jacob, this new guy that was introduced, has nothing to do with Dharma, is supposedly bringing people to the island, then did he bring Dharma to the island? Because Dharma seems to be the only group of people that is able to find the island, still able to travel back and forth, knew that they could do experiments on the island, and they were allowed to be there for many, many years, and then they all die off because of the others. But how did the Dharma people get there to begin with? It still is never really answered. It just says that they were there and what they were doing, but how did they get there, and why are they the only ones that are allowed to keep coming?
Yeah, and that takes us to Jacob, which is the only reason that I'm not as depressed about Dharma being gone. And honestly, there's not nearly enough of Jacob, but I guess for me the interesting thing is who is behind these mysteries. And Jacob is this supernatural type being, apparently, although we should pause right here and say that you and I freeze-framed a lot of stuff in Lost during the TiVo years. And one of the things, I don't know if everybody's seen this, is when Jacob is first introduced in the cabin, there are like 11 frames of a man sitting in a chair. He is an old man. He looks like Jeff Bridges in that new country music.
Oh, he looks scary as heck. He looks like a skeleton with like long old white hair. It's scary looking.
Right. You briefly see this flash. You can't even really catch it unless you like slow motion. And I remember it being kind of startling. I remember when Locke gets his leg stuck in that door and it falls down and he sees that map. We like paused that and downloaded the high def version.
Yeah, and that part of the show I loved. I thought it was really cool that they had all those little secret things that you could get and try to figure out what it all meant. And then it ended up being, oh, it's just something with Dharma, and that really wasn't important anyway.
So Jacob, he's in the chair. He's apparently an old man. Well, now we see that Jacob is, at least he's in a new manifestation. I don't know. I really think the show just sort of threw it away, that he's this younger guy with blonde hair who has resided on the island for seemingly a long time. And this goes to your question
centuries. But I think they assume that nobody freeze-framed the show and saw the old man in the chair, because people like my mom, who never even knew that you could do that, didn't know and didn't see it. So
this show exists in the internet era, and I mean, I think they purposely build a lot of crap in.
I think that they should recognize that people can do that and did do that, but they're just pretending like it didn't happen. They've never showed him look like an old man. Now, the other man, that his friend, supposed friend, yes, he shows up as different people in this episode. I call him the devil.
Right. We call him the devil, and I think that makes sense because it looks like God and the devil. You essentially have this wager. Jacob is calling these people to the island.
The reason why we call him God and the devil, if you even notice, the first time they show them, Jacob is wearing white and the other guy is wearing black.
Right. He's saying, you're calling them here. These humans are always going to do evil. And he's saying, no, I believe that they'll do good. And essentially, it seems like that's the driving force behind the island. So that is an exciting thing to me. What's not exciting was going back and reading the Wikipedia and seeing how much messed up stuff Lost has for people to deal with. And even the wrap-up episode couldn't quite encapsulate it all. Time travel, flashing forward, flashing backwards.
I have a feeling that they're just, everything they've been doing since season 4 is just to cover up all the questions that they've done for the first 3 seasons, because they've realized, we can't really answer them. Like, there are some things that they did answer, sort of, but there are a ton of things that I can't even remember because it was so long ago that they've just completely ignored, like the plane thing. Like, come on.
There was a time when I fully imagined the last episode of this show would be Alvar Hanzo meeting them. And now that is clearly not the case. I mean, they're off in a whole other direction. And so let's start talking about Season 6. The premiere tonight was 2 hours long. Essentially, if you didn't like flashing backward and forward in time, you're not going to be happy because they are flashing to 2 timelines, same as last season. Last season had 19 set. Well, it's not. Okay.
They are doing time travel, but they only did it in the very beginning of the episode. They're just showing you 2 different lives that could have occurred. If them blowing up the hydrogen bomb caused them to be back on the plane, this is what their lives will be. And if it didn't cause them to be back on the plane, what else would happen? That's all that's happening. So I have a feeling that the rest of this season and the rest of the whole entire show of Lost is just going to be showing, well, it was better for them to be on the island to begin with. All you people who wanted them to leave the island, I'm going to show you how horrible it is. Because they are setting up things to show how bad their lives are already. And that's not satisfying at all. It just seems like a cop-out. They wasted 2 hours of this season premiere that's supposed to be awesome, and I feel like they could have covered it up in like 2 minutes.
If it's supposed to be a moral lesson like that, where we all go, oh, it was good for them to to stay on the island.
That's what it seems like. I can see it already.
Yeah, that's going to be one long, painful lesson. Because what I want is the island. What I want is the mystery. And I don't really care as much about their lives off the island. I mean, that's a massive ensemble cast. It should be said. I mean, that's probably bigger than any other show I've ever watched.
Yeah, but they've killed them all off and introduced new people that we don't care about. Once again, like this episode, introduced a whole new set of people that apparently have been on this island the whole time, and they've never noticed that they were there. They're in the middle of the island, and nobody ran into this Gigantor temple. I mean, really. And
it's sort of the problem Heroes had with addition. They kept adding and adding superpowers, adding characters.
But then they also add that the flight attendant on their original flight is in this new group of people, and she's accepted as one of them, and now they start asking new questions. Well, why is this lady with her, and what are these people doing? And it's really quite annoying when they can't even answer other questions. Like in the original first couple of seasons, they started showing flashbacks and showing different people's lives crossing paths without you even noticing, and they haven't answered that. Instead, they have showed Jacob crossing all these other people's paths in the past. But they don't explain why the actual people have crossed paths.
Right, like Libby in Hurley's mental hospital.
Yeah, and Saeed's girlfriend was like a neighbor to Locke or something. I can't even remember.
It really feels like they'll build that mystery up and then go, look over there, like distraction.
Yeah,
You know?
it's all a distraction. They made this whole setup of, finding all the different stations.
I loved that part of the show. I mean, that's the part that I actually was excited about.
And then finding the other island. We saw that there was another island right next to it.
That's true. It's like, let's add another island or another 10 people.
But it was still at least interesting.
We're getting harsh here, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there. There's got to be a lot of people who are really interested in the characters and their lives. And wow, what if Kate really ended up with Sawyer? And I mean, to me, that's another kind of show. You want that kind of show, you can watch something else. This is a show about a mysterious, crazy island to me, and I want them to just deal and resolve that.
But they can still have that with the island. Like, right. Kate and Sawyer and Jack all had a relationship on the island without ever having to show anything in the future or them getting off the island. It could still deal with them all on the island.
And dealing with the island specifically, this episode, one thing I did like was the revelation that the black smoke monster is the Nemesis character, is the devil. We'll just call him the devil. We'll start that.
Okay, he's the devil.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that. Whenever he said, "I'm sorry you had to see me that way," I actually thought, okay, now that is quite acceptable in my opinion. Because we finally get an answer about something that has been troubling people for a long time, is what is the black smoke monster?
Yeah, but the thing at the very end, they set it up as this huge deal, and Ben asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, I want to get off the island. Well,
he wants to go home, he says.
Yeah, go home. But where is home if you've lived on that island, never gotten any older for hundreds of years?
Right. Well, and that's something that I can get behind is, there's something mysterious about this. We've given you a good answer, and now here's something else. What I don't like is when they build a mountain of questions and then just distract you onto something else and act like those questions weren't important. I guess that's how I've felt about Lost for a while, is that I've just been led along and then, told, no, it's not important.
Yeah, I mean, they have answered some things and done things that I thought were interesting, like last season when you didn't even watch it all and I was still watching it. They had Daniel Faraday. The thing with him and the experiments that he was doing and the time travel and finding something that will in the past is also in the future so that you don't die or whatever, I don't know, keep you stable. And then find out that his mom is the same lady who got Desmond to go to the island and gave him the ring, and that Charles Woodmore is his dad, and they were originally on the island a long time ago. Like, that is interesting, but they don't really go that far into it. I would care more about that than what they're doing now.
Well, you almost have to be like a genius to have followed all this. I know there's a strong fan base, but I even talked to a fan at your sister's Halloween party. One of her friends is a real big fan, and they talk about it at work. And I was questioning her on some of these things. I'm like, well, what about this and what about that? And she couldn't even remember half of that. I almost feel like people just sort of continue watching casually but don't I mean,
Yeah,
is it possible
it
that
takes-
people are still following this entire storyline?
You have to be so far into it, it's ridiculous.
I mean, we watched that hour-long special, and it all makes good sense until they get to a point where they go, then they all traveled back to the island. Only some of them teleported 30 years into the past. And you go, what? Like, it just does not make sense. There's a pretty good linear timeline. Then the
that
people
was-
leave. Then they come back, and then it's like, and suddenly...
You have to understand, he didn't even watch last season, Brad. That happened last season. So if you're having a problem, we're talking about season 6.
No, I know. I'm saying that was last season. But when you watch the wrap-up, it's like a decision like that comes out of nowhere, you know? It doesn't feel like it flows in the regular timeline of this show. It just seems like, come on, do something to cause drama.
Maybe you think that Jacob set it up so that they go back in the past and do the thing with the hydrogen bomb, which will cause all that other stuff to happen. It's on purpose that they were all there at a certain time, and for some reason, Sun wasn't allowed to travel back in time with the rest of them, which I don't understand.
I bet a lot of people will be annoyed at a theory like that Jacob is a godlike character, because I'm sure that to some people that seems like a cop-out. You know, there's the old expression like a deus ex machina. It's like a cheap way to get out of any situation. And I feel like at this point, I think that's the only thing that it could possibly be. Because you have like Christian Shepherd appearing, Jack's dad, appearing on the island whenever he gets there. You know, early on, he saw his dad. All these intersections in their past, all of this weirdness. How else can you possibly wrap all this up than saying there was some kind of like overriding supernatural force?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, and then there's all these other people who all know information too, like Richard. Richard can travel off the island and also is on the island. He never gets any older like Jacob.
Wait, let's talk about Richard for a second. Do you think we just saw tonight that Locke's interaction with Richard was, and I should say Devil Locke.
Yeah, he's not Locke. He's
Right.
Devil.
Yeah, his interaction with him was kind of like, "Oh, glad to see you out of those chains." And you know,
He was being sarcastic.
right, but he knew Richard, and last time he knew him, he
Which
was in
means-
chains, which is ancient.
Which means, in my opinion, that he is another friend like Jacob and the devil guy, that he's someone else that they had chained up for some reason, because he knows all this information and he has all these abilities just like Jacob and everyone else. And he doesn't get any older, and he can tell all these people what to do, and they all listen. I don't know.
And this will be my most anticipated part of the show this season will be this story. These leaders, or whoever they are, these gods who created this island or whatever they're doing, Richard, Locke, the Nemesis, slash the Nemesis, and Jacob, who apparently, though he was stabbed to death, is back.
Well, no, he's not back. As we know, Hurley can talk to dead people. So
Miles can talk to dead
yeah, Miles. Yeah, but Miles made a face at Hurley, like, "Wait, you really can talk to dead people?" I have a feeling that maybe Miles can't, and it's a scam,
Right.
and Hurley really can. And we've seen that Hurley can. He's talked to dead people before on the show, and he thinks he's going crazy. But he did talk to Jacob, and Jacob said he was dead. So
And the fact that he's dead and coming back as a ghost kind of disproves the God theory, maybe?
yeah, it does. And it also brings up the question in saying that the people on the island never get older. They don't grow older. I don't know, but maybe that's the case. And they've just been on the island for so long and have been able to not die that they just look like they're gods, but really they're just people who don't grow older on this island. I don't know.
That would be kind of cool. In the game Riven, there was a guy who, you know, fooled a lot of people into thinking that he was a god, and they kind of had this tribal religion where they worshipped him, and even though he was just a regular guy, I would kind of enjoy that. I don't know.
Yeah, but then there's also the thing, they have to be somewhat godlike, at least the devil guy, because he turns into the black smoke monster, and he can disappear and then show up behind you, like,
Or become Locke.
yeah, or become Locke, or become, in my opinion, I think he becomes Ben's daughter Alex last season or the season before.
Like I said, a show like this, like if you look at The Prisoner, which is about a mysterious island and stuff, the remake aside, which was only 6 episodes, the original one was like 16 episodes or whatever. Like a mystery show like this, I think, is really not intended to last this long. And unfortunately, when you do it, you just have to sort of beat the thing to death and just stretch. I almost see a guy behind the camera making the stretch motion, like, go, we have more seasons,
Well, yeah, you can totally tell because, like I said, this 2-hour episode, like a total of 3 things happen in the whole entire 2 hours. They stretch everything out and show everything that they're doing, and they're just trying to waste time.
Are we ever going to get the numbers? Are we ever going to know what the numbers meant?
Nope, because that was a Dharma thing and it's over. Everything with Dharma is gone. It's ridiculous. And if you notice that the other time period where the 2 time periods that happened in this episode, well, not really 2 time periods, 2 different lives, I guess, Hurley is back on the plane and he all of a sudden has good luck because the numbers that they had to enter to keep the magnetic field from causing the plane to crash were the numbers that Hurley used for his lottery, which won, and he had bad luck, but in this life where they blew up the bomb, he has all good luck.
Which is the only thing that makes this at all worth watching, because I even said while we were watching this, like, well, I can go back to season 1 and rewatch it if they really want me to. I don't need to see them re-act it out. And you said, well, no, it's slightly different, like it's modified.
Well, yeah, it's slightly different. Boone's sister is not on the plane at all. So there are a couple things that are different. I mean...
But come on, that 6th season, a couple things are different.
No, I'm saying there's no reason for doing this.
Right.
They're
No,
wasting time. But they are, I think, going to prove to you in the end that it's better that they were on the island, that they never leave, that they should all be there. It's better for all of them in the end.
So what's up with the other timeline that they're showing, which is that the hydrogen bomb didn't work? Like, what's the other one?
Juliet says it did work.
Contradicts
really
her
know.
being there, right?
Well, if you think about it, they could have traveled through time before the bomb actually exploded because there was a big white flash, like what Jin said if you were paying attention to the episode. So they could have traveled into this moment in time before the bomb actually exploded. So when the bomb explodes, that's what would happen with them on the plane. But if they had time traveled before the bomb explodes, they're back in 2007 or whatever it is.
Right. I love that they have to still carry around 2007 as part of the show.
Well, they have to because they're counting the number of days that they're on the island, and it's not years, it's the days that they're on there. I don't know. I mean...
So at the end of this episode is like some sort of a tribal people in a massive Aztec tower that has never been seen. I love how many parts of this island there are. Yeah. And there's this Asian dude that comes out, and I'm thinking, okay, now I have an Asian dude in like an Indiana Jones style temple. It just doesn't feel like Lost to me, at least not, and I'm not saying because there's an Asian dude. I'm saying
if you watched last season, that was there in last season. It has been there for 2 seasons now, yes.
The temple has?
Yeah, that underground thing that they had to get to, that's where the smoke monster was last season, and Ben had the smoke monster look at him, and he let him live, and now we know that that's Locke. But that's the same place. Right. That was there last season. But yes, I do agree that it shouldn't be there, or if it was there, they would have found it because it's gigantic and it's on an island. How big is this island? I mean, come on.
They add these additional people who have this attitude of like, oh, we know everything, and it's more than that. It's like whenever the one henchman says to him, you're going to come with us, and he says, why? What's the deal? And he's kind of like, don't question me. I'm like, that always feels like the writer's arrogance.
Yeah.
Like when they're like, don't question us. In fact, there's one part in this episode where, who died?
Juliet.
Juliet dies. And she says, I have something to tell you. And he says, what? And then she dies.
She says, it's very important.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she's dead.
And I thought, boy, that's symbolic for the entire show. I have something to tell you. And then she dies.
Yeah. And then he makes Miles talk to her and then say, what was she going to say? And all she said was, it worked.
And you're saying you think Miles might even be just, faking it.
I mean,
didn't they have flashbacks where they show that it is real?
Maybe he does, but the way it could just be the actor's acting. The face he made looked like, wait a second, you can talk to dead people? Right. Wait a second. Just like when Ben found out that Locke could actually talk to Jacob, and he was like, wait a second, you can talk to Jacob? Because he never could. It's kind of weird that the face that he made, it made it seem like, oh, really?
These are the freighter people, by the way, who I've not been a huge fan of, although I agree Faraday, I like the actor who plays him a lot, so I guess that kind of helps. But Faraday, his story was semi-interesting, and his connection to Widmore and to Eloise Hawking and everything.
Yeah,
But Miles,
just,
I could not.
yeah,
I
who
could deal
cares?
without him. And then there was the girl who was
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
She died.
Yeah, you got the
she
freighter
had been on
people.
the island as a kid, which she didn't tell anyone, and she had traveled through time so much and been on the island for so long that she died. I don't know.
I feel like I've been traveling so long, I'm gonna die. This is the sixth season premiere. Do you think? I mean, obviously it's 2 hours long. We get a feel for where they're headed. Still interested to keep watching? Just gonna watch because it's the last season? Where's your energy level after this?
Well, for the past 2 seasons, I've been mad that they've been toying with us the whole time, and I said, well, maybe they'll just answer things in the 6th season.
You're in an abusive relationship, really.
I am. But since I've watched it for so long, yes, I'm going to finish it because they...
Mom,
because,
even though he beats me, he's a really good
shut
guy.
up, this isn't the same. But only because I know there's not going to be that many episodes left.
Yeah.
There's not that many, so I'm just going to deal with it.
And I was just kidding with you because I'm going to totally watch every episode too. And I really
Now,
have to.
jump on the bandwagon after you quit forever.
Oh, well, it's the last season.
Well, I've seen every episode. You have not, so...
They are all on Instant Stream, which is kind of awesome. I did go back and just scrub through a little bit. That's my way of doing it. But
Scrubbing through does not answer any question.
and I've read the wikis, all right? Sadly...
That still doesn't cover everything either.
You look at the wiki, you just realize how messed up stuff is. Like how insanely complex things are. But yes, I'm going to keep watching.
What, do you feel like you're going to be depressed at the end?
I think I'm going to continue to watch and be mad like you're saying.
Yeah.
You know.
My question for 5 seasons was, what about that stupid foot statue? Because they showed it in that one episode where Saeed went around the island, and I said, they're ignoring the stupid foot. Yeah. Why is that foot there?
I'm really glad that the foot is not only explained and back and good, but it's a key part of the show now. Okay. It's where Jacob lives.
It's not explained, though. It's there, yeah. Right. And it shows that it was there a long time ago.
It shows the age of the island.
And that's where Jacob lives. But who built it? I want to know who built it.
Why does it have a crocodile head? Oh, God. You know what? These native dudes...
It looks like an Egyptian god. That's what it looks like.
Right. And it's holding 2 ankhs, which are an Egyptian symbol. And that's the same thing in Hurley's guitar case.
Which means, did Egyptians build it? And when were they there? I would rather these questions be answered than all these other stupid things brought up.
Right. Well,
I want to make one other statement.
Yeah.
When those new people from the new crash in 2007 all came to talk to Jacob or protect Jacob, and they went inside the foot, and Locke was in there, and they realized that Locke was the other bad guy. That one guy made a circle around himself with chalk or dust,
yes.
And then the smoke monster couldn't get to him. But then, of course, the smoke monster caused something to fall on him, which killed him, which was stupid. But that, I was like, oh no, now they're involving voodoo or whatever.
Well, I actually thought of Reaper right away, because if anyone's ever seen Reaper, it's a show with the devil and this guy that works at like Home Depot that's his son. And basically, they draw circles around themselves to avoid the devil.
Why? Why can't it cross into a circle? What is causing it?
I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't
understand that. I've never understood that. And I just think it's a hilarious way to just have a cop-out of, oh, we're safe if you just put a circle around you, like... That's
plus, that gun-toting dude knew about the circle.
Yeah,
he seems like the dumbest one in that crew.
But they knew about Jacob, which means they must know other things. They were sent by Jacob. If you saw earlier,
who's that dude with again? That guy with the gun. Which part is
girl? That girl was sent by Jacob. They showed that
Alana.
Yeah, her. Whatever. I don't even know where she came from. She's a new character that's automatically introduced out of nowhere. Like that couple. Remember that couple that they introduced in season 2 or 3 that apparently saw every important thing on the island and didn't tell anyone else, and then they both died.
That's a tough episode because a lot of people love it and a lot of people are like, "What?"
It's so annoying. Yeah, right. Like they wouldn't tell anyone all the things that they saw. Yeah, right.
I just looked at it as a time waster, like when Sun
They did. They
when
were
Sun lost her
wasting
wedding
time.
ring. It's like, okay, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
They wasted time.
This is probably a split between the sci-fi fans.
They've also killed all the people I cared about. They killed Charlie. They killed.
That was a great episode, though.
Yeah, but I'm so mad that they killed Charlie still.
Well, you get your chance to see him again. He's back.
Yeah, and now he's back as a jerk. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to see, oh, it was better for Charlie to live on the island and then die. I don't
You can
wanna
just
see
watch
that.
Flash Forward, coming soon on ABC.
No, I don't.
Starring Dominic Monaghan as not Charlie, a guy who flashes forward. I think that's funny that he's on the same network in another show that also
Well, so
flashes.
was Juliet. She was on V.
Yeah, well, apparently V's still going because I saw
I think it was canceled, and then they realized they didn't have any other shows, so they brought it back.
Yeah. So that is, I am sorry to say, an entire episode
Of complaining. Entire episode of complaining.
about Lost Season 6.
Are you listening, J.J. Abrams?
Is he even still involved?
I don't know. But, man, you made Felicity. That was an awesome show.
There you
What
go.
are you doing?
There you go. Felicity was an awesome show. We'll leave you with that. And if you would like to write us an email and participate in the show, you may do so. Our email address is mail@growing-up-geek.com. And you can follow us throughout the week on Twitter. That's me and Rob, that is, not you. Sorry.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Well, you know.
I'm going to make my own Twitter thing for people to follow that are against your show. Just for that.
There you go. So look for that soon. And you can follow Rob and I at twitter.com/GUGBrad and GUGRob. And I think that's going to do it. Once again, my name is Brad.
I'm Amber.
And we'll see you next week.